the test of time. Do you go back and watch it at all, or once you've done something, do you just move on?
I haven't watched the whole of it since we sort of first did it. Very strangely, it was so personal, and there was so much stuff going on in my life at the time I made it, to do with a woman at the time, because there's kind of definitely a sense, the whole sort of being alone and isolation was sort of about long distance relationships at the time. That relationship didn't work out. I've since married and had a baby, and my wife still hasn't seen the film because she kind of knew, and we've been together like 7 years now, and she knew what it was all about, so she didn't want to see it. So no, I haven't gone back to revisit it. Okay,
so tell us about the inception of the script and and how it came about. Give us some specifics.
Sam Rockwell, I was a huge, I'm sure you're all fans of him as well. I was a huge fan of him. And I really wanted to work with him. I'd been working in the commercials industry in London for a while. Knew that it was an amazing training ground, but what I always wanted to do was to make films. I had a script called Mute that I wanted to make, and I had sent the script to Sam, who loved it, but wanted to play the lead character, who is a big, bruising brute of a fella, instead of the character I had cast him for and wanted him to take. Sam and I met up to sort of try and convince each other. It didn't work out, but we got on like a house on fire. So I said, look, I can't let this go. I've got to do my first film with you, but it's not going to be Mute. Let's work out what it could be. And we started talking about the kinds of films we loved, our shared love of science fiction, and his desire to play a sort of blue collar, working class guy in a science fiction film, and that's what Moon became.
So when you said you talked about the films that you both loved, what were the titles that you came up with? I mean, I know the ones that I think are relevant, but what were the ones that you talked about?
Well, it was kind of a holy trinity of Alien, Silent Running, and Outland.
Yeah. Just say Silent Running again.
Silent Running.
You're amongst friends here with Silent Running. We've done a 35 of Silent Running.
Oh,
it was one of the very
fantastic.
first that we did, and we were very proud of it. Yeah. So.
Oh, amazing.
And Outland.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think there's if you look at Moon with that in mind, I think the sort of ticking clock of the ELISA turning up, actually literally what the boards look like. There's a lot of the guys who turn up at the end. I mean, there's we borrowed liberally from the things that we loved.
And what did you take from Alien? I mean, the most obvious thing is the lived-in look of space.
Yeah, lived-in look. Again, the idea of sort of blue-collar heroes, of just working people in space, as opposed to sort of the. It's funny because when Moon came out, there had not been this kind of sci-fi in a while. It feels like there's a lot of it now. Sort of slightly more cerebral, slightly more, sort of everyman in a science fiction environment. It was more about sort of more heroic types in science fiction. And we felt like, although we weren't doing something completely fresh, because it was referencing what was happening in the 70s and early 80s, it was certainly something that hadn't been done in a while.
There's also, I mean, to some extent, Solaris, which is the Tarkovsky, again set in space, but to do with a relationship or a longed-for relationship, which you mentioned is at the root of that. And there are also themes from Blade Runner to do with replicants, to do with people being created for a certain purpose and having a certain lifespan.
As I said, borrowed liberally. Gertie himself, obviously, is very much a mirror image of in some ways of Hal. Yeah. There's a lot of different science fiction films amalgamated.
Except one of the lovely things, when you say that Gertie is the mirror image of Hal, there's the thing at the beginning when you first see, particularly with the eye, you think, okay, that's Hal, but the lovely thing is that Gertie is benevolent.
Yeah.
And actually, the whole point about Hal is from the very minute that you hear Douglas Rain's voice, you think he is going to end up killing everyone on the ship.
I'm curious because I'm wondering when 2001 first came out, do you think that was the expectation when people watched that movie knowing nothing about it?
How many people here have seen 2001? Well, we showed a 35 of 2001 here, of course. Okay, so when you first hear Hal, when you first encounter Hal, do you immediately think he's suspicious?
Yeah. That's not fair. That's not fair because this lovely audience have been brought up in a world where even if you haven't seen 2001, you know and expect that character is going to turn on you. I think what I'm wondering about is, back when the film came out, was that the expectation, or did people expect so much from technology and expect technology to be so benevolent and beneficial that couldn't possibly happen? It's a computer; it does everything right.
Can you remember when you first saw 2001?
So young.
Yeah, but I think the cat would have been way out of the bag as far as what people thought of 2001 at the time. I think